big deal or new deal today. He signs a 1-year extension. There's a lot of question marks over this. We weren't sure if he was going to go again. If he did go, how long would he go for? And he's decided to go another year.
Yeah, Buzzy broke the news this morning. Spoke to him this afternoon. Really interesting story behind this. 6 weeks ago, Craig said he was ready to stop coaching at the end of the season, but Andrew Johns rang him up. Yeah. The 8th of Mortal rang him out the blue and basically had a conversation with him, and they wouldn't go into the details. Spoke to Joey about it. They wouldn't go into the details of the conversation, but needless to say, Craig got off the phone and thought, yeah, I'm going to go around again. So the Melbourne Storm probably owe Joey a beer or two.
Shows the wisdom too of Matt Tripp not pushing him to an answer, because 6 weeks ago...
the deadline was the end of March.
Well, 6 weeks ago was the deadline, basically, so if he'd pushed him, then they probably would have lost him, but just let him have his time. And you know, speaking to Tripp, he was always confident if they just let him make the decision in his own time frame, then he would stay on, which I think is a big rap for the club.
The interesting thing is next year will be his 21st year in charge of Melbourne Storm, which equals Wayne Bennett's record of 21 straight years at the Broncos. And it's a great signing for the club. I guess, though, there are still some question marks for players like your guy, Braithen Astor.
Or Cameron Munster.
Cameron Munster.
Sorry.
Come back.
I retired long ago.
Yeah, I've had a long week. I've had a long week.
750, you might come back, though.
But Cameron Munster is on record as saying he really wants to know whether how long Craig's going to be there. Yeah. And his contract will now finish when...
Yeah, well, his contract finishes next year at the same time, so they'll be finishing at the same time. Like, Cameron loves Craig. He's been his only coach, and it's a huge influence on him in his career. So Cameron will be really happy with the news that he's staying for next year.
I asked Craig about it today, Braith, whether he thought his decision might help keep Cameron Munster around. He said, look, we're putting no pressure on him, and if he keeps playing like he is,
it's unconnected,
we're not going to rush him. It is unconnected, I suppose, because they're alive.
You can understand about for next year, but for the year after, they're both off contract, and by the time Bellamy makes his decision next March, which is the next deadline in place for him to make...
Munster will have decided.
He'll have already decided what he's going to do. So they're no longer connected, if you ask me.
Do you think it'll only be a 1-year extension for Bellyache, or do you think he'll go longer?
It's impossible to read. It depends on his mood. As he said, he was nearly ready to give it away 6 weeks ago. He broke the deadline by 6 weeks to make his decision to stay.
Yeah, I think if you're a bet man, you'd say next year will be the last year.
Yeah, I think that too.
I think it's a lottery. It's a lottery with Craig.
If he only just got over the line this time... I can't really see...
But he only just got over the line last time, didn't he?
It's the same thing.
I don't know.
He's got to enjoy his life and have a bit of a
there's
rest
some blokes ready to
Can he enjoy?
There's some blokes ready to take over. I mean, going an extra year actually probably brings Jason Riles back into the equation, because Riles, couldn't have... If he'd left at the end of this year, Riles, wouldn't have broken his deal with the Roosters, but potentially it brings Jason Riles back in the equation. Mark Brent was down there. Billy will have been with Queensland for a year, so sort of opens it up a bit,
That's going to have ramifications, all that. That's why it's going to be important to see what he does and see, because there's a lot of guys now, OK, well, it's going to be another year now at least before the Storm's available. So they've all got to then reconsider their careers and what the trajectory there is going to be.
Yeah, all in all, great news for the Melbourne Storm with Craig Bellamy staying on for an extra year as the head coach. Now, big game, as we mentioned, the Melbourne Storm this weekend have got a huge game, and Jerome Hughes has been named in the side to take on the Cowboys up in Townsville. This is a surprise, isn't it, to even think that he's been named in the side?
We all got told he was out 4 weeks minimum. So to see him, having said that, Braith, look, we don't know if he's actually going to play. Because there's always ducks and drakes being played about teams or players being named and culled as the week goes on. But it is a bit of a surprise.
Bellyache's particularly strong on keeping the opposition guessing until an hour before kick-off. And I've even heard talk that Tyron Wishart, as much as he had a go last week, he's a gutsy, courageous player. It was an unhappy night for him at fullback, and I've even heard Nick Mooney might be a chance of switching there this week, and then they bring in another winger.
I think they've got to do that, Buzz, myself.
Well, what are you hearing about Hughes, though, anything?
No, mate, you ask questions and they say we'll decide Saturday. And you know what? You cannot... One of the secrets to Storm's success...
I don't.
I like it.
Why don't you?
I think the NRL should be more transparent with players who are injured and players when they're available. I think with so much money now that the NRL puts the hand out from the betting agencies, I think with Supercoach and all that, which is designed to bring in people who aren't necessarily rugby league fans, but it's built as a teaser to get people interested in the game. I think the fans deserve more than the old-fashioned notion that you have to wait till an hour before kick-off before you find out
He's a huge
who's
example
starting.
of that too, Kenny, right? Because if Jerome Hughes plays, the market's going to shift dramatically.
Yeah, it is. And I know, and people at home who don't care about gambling and say, oh, who cares? I get that as well, right? But the fact is, the NRL puts their hand out every year for the best part of $30 or $40 million, which is significant. And I think they owe more back than to say an hour before kick-off.
Very hard to prove, though, because they can always say we're giving Jerome Hughes until the last minute.
Well, you can't in those circumstances. In the NFL, they do it because in the NFL, they're far more serious about the way they go down this track. And to the point where the NFL films training sessions, so players who have been declared unfit, if they see them turn up late or they're surprise payments or play appearances, or vice versa, if they are late withdrawals and they watch the video and they see they haven't been training all week and yet they didn't pull them out and claim there was a late injury, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, it's a big decision. I'd go as far as to say if Jerome Hughes plays, they're favourites. If he doesn't, Cowboys are favourites.